Sani Abacha was a military general who rose to the highest office in Nigeria, but ruled with an iron fist that earned him a reputation as a ruthless dictator. Abacha was born in Kano State, joined the Nigerian army, and quickly rose through the ranks, becoming a major general. When he seized power, he promised to return Nigeria to civilian rule, but the elections he held were widely seen as rigged, solidifying his reputation as a strongman who would stop at nothing to maintain his grip on power. He was accused of looting more than $2.2 billion during his time in power. Despite widespread allegations of human rights abuses, Abacha remained in office until his sudden death. Today, his legacy remains shrouded in controversy, with some remembering him as a necessary force for stability, and others condemning him as a brutal oppressor of the Nigerian people. In this video, we are going to be talking about the life and legacy of General Sani Abacha, exploring the events that shaped his rule and the impact he had on Nigeria. Let's begin. His early life and education. Sani Abacha was born on September 20, 1943 in Kano, Nigeria. He was the son of a palace servant in the royal court of the Kano Emirate. Abacha spent his early years in Kano, where he received a traditional Islamic education. Despite his humble origins, he was determined to make a name for himself and worked hard to achieve his goals. Abacha was known for his discipline and determination, even as a child. He excelled in his studies and was seen as a promising student. It was his ambition to serve the country that ultimately drove him to join the Nigerian army. Despite his lack of formal education, Abacha's military training and experience, combined with his personal qualities of discipline, loyalty, and determination, made him a highly capable leader. These qualities would serve him well in his later role as head of the Nigerian government. His military career. Sani Abacha joined the Nigerian army in 1963 and quickly rose through the ranks due to his leadership abilities and military expertise. He was known for his strict discipline and commitment to the military, which helped him gain the respect of his peers and superiors. Throughout his career in the army, Abacha was involved in several military operations and assignments, including serving as a peacekeeper in various conflicts in Africa. He participated in the Nigerian Civil War in 1969 as a battalion and platoon leader. In 1975, he was promoted to division commander of the 2nd Infantry. In 1983, Abacha was appointed a member of the Supreme Military Council while serving as General Officer Commander of the 2nd Mechanized Division. Abacha's military career was distinguished by his participation in every military coup in Nigeria, when he was still a 2nd lieutenant with the 3rd Battalion in Kaduna. He participated in the Nigerian counter-coup on July 1966, while still a 2nd lieutenant with the 3rd Battalion in Kaduna. Abacha would advance through the Nigerian military's ranks, and by 1983, he had attained the rank of brigadier when he helped Ibrahim Babangida depose Shehu Shagari as president. General Muhammadu Buhari, Nigeria's current president, assumed power following this coup. In 1985, Major General Sani Abacha was appointed as the Chief of Army Staff by the then President of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari. As the Chief of Army Staff, Abacha held a key position in the country's military establishment and was responsible for overseeing the operations and activities of the Nigerian army. During this time, he worked closely with President Buhari to strengthen the military's capability to protect the country's national security and stability. Abacha's appointment as Chief of Army Staff marked a significant milestone in his military career and demonstrated his growing influence and expertise within the Nigerian armed forces. Throughout his time in this role, he gained a reputation for being a dedicated and capable military leader and was widely respected for his professionalism and strategic vision. As Chief of Army Staff, Abacha played a critical role in strengthening the Nigerian military and preparing it to face a range of national security threats, including internal rebellions, border conflicts, and other security challenges. His tenure was marked by several key achievements, including the improvement of the military's operational efficiency and the strengthening of its training and equipment programs. Abacha was a key player in both the 1983 Nigerian coup d'état that installed General Muhammadu Buhari and the 1985 coup d'état that ousted Buhari and installed General Ibrahim Babangida. In 1990, Sani Abacha was named the Minister of Defense under President Ibrahim Babangida. Before this appointment, Abacha had gained a reputation for being an effective and efficient military officer and had risen through the ranks of the Nigerian army to become a major general. His involvement in politics. Moshood Abiola, a candidate who was allegedly supported by Ibrahim Babangida, won the ensuing 1993 elections. However, that election was null and Ernest Shani Khan became the interim president. In 1993, General Sani Abacha overthrew the interim government of Chief Ernest Shonkin and declared himself the president of Nigeria. Abacha's behavior was hardly democratic, notwithstanding his assurances of democratization. He discharged a significant chunk of the military and outlawed all political activities, controlled the media, and put together a 3,000-man strong personal security unit. He issued a decree on September 1994, which made his government above the jurisdiction of the court. This gave him total power. Another decree gave him the right to detain anyone for 3 months without trial. During his time in office, Abacha faced criticism for his human rights abuses, including the imprisonment and execution of political opponents, as well as the restriction of civil liberties and press freedom. Despite these controversies, Abacha maintained his grip on power through a combination of brute force and strategic political maneuvering. He was widely seen as one of the most powerful and feared leaders in the history of Nigeria. In 1995, General Sani Abacha declared a new constitution that greatly consolidated his power as the president of Nigeria. This meant that he had the authority to appoint and dismiss senior government officials, judges, and military officers, as well as to veto legislation passed by the National Assembly. The new constitution also created a new system of government that centralized power in the presidency, allowing Abacha to govern with minimal opposition or dissent. This move effectively turned Nigeria into a military dictatorship, with Abacha as its undisputed ruler. In 1998, General Sani Abacha announced his plans to run for a full term as president in the upcoming elections in Nigeria. This move came as a surprise to many, as he had previously been known to govern the country through a series of military decrees and had not shown any interest in seeking a mandate from the Nigerian people. Despite widespread concerns about the fairness and transparency of the election process, Abacha went ahead with his plans, which many saw as an attempt to legitimize his rule. He officially became a candidate for the presidential election and ran a campaign that promised to restore stability and security to the country. Abacha's election bid was met with widespread opposition and criticism from both domestic and international organizations, who argued that the election would not be free and fair. In the same year, Nigeria was facing political unrest as opposition leader Moshood Abiola, who was widely believed to have won the 1993 presidential elections, died in detention. This led to widespread protests calling for an end to military rule and the restoration of democracy. However, these protests were met with violence and suppression by the military under the leadership of General Sani Abacha. Olusegun Obasanjo, a former military leader, was also imprisoned for treason and charged with organizing a coup with General Oladipo in 1997. Wole Soyinka, the Nobel laureate, was also accused of treason, although he had voluntarily left the nation. One of Abacha's most heinous acts was the incarceration, trial, and murder of activist Ken Saro-Wiwa and other writers because they objected to International Petroleum Company's environmental exploitation of their region. Are you enjoying this video? Then like and subscribe to the New Tourist channel. Also, do not forget to turn on notifications so you get notified whenever we upload interesting videos like this. Let's continue. During Abacha's rule, the country's foreign exchange reserves increased, rising from $494 million in 1993 to $9.6 billion by the middle of 1997. They significantly lowered Nigeria's external debt, which stood at $36 billion in 1993, but was only $27 billion by 1997. In addition, Abacha built 25 to 100 kilometers of urban roadways in important cities including Kano, Lagos, and Port Harcourt. Abachas Life as the President of Nigeria. Sani Abacha won the presidential election in 1998. The election was widely seen as rigged and lacked transparency, with many opposition candidates being excluded from running. The election results were met with widespread protests and outrage from the opposition and civil society groups. His presidency was marked by several human rights cases of abuse and political repression, as well as rampant corruption and looting of state funds. During Abacha's time in power, the Nigerian government was notorious for embezzling funds meant for public works, education, healthcare, and other basic services. Abacha and his close associates were implicated in several high-profile corruption scandals, including the looting of billions of dollars from the country's oil revenues. One of the most infamous cases of Abacha's corruption was the Abacha loot, a term used to describe an estimated $5 billion that was siphoned from Nigeria's central bank during his presidency. Much of this money was laundered through offshore bank accounts and shell companies in Europe and other parts of the world. Abacha and his family members were also accused of amassing a vast personal fortune through corrupt practices. His death and legacy. Sani Abacha died suddenly on June 8, 1998, at the age of 54. The exact cause of his death remains unclear to this day, but it is widely believed that he died from a heart attack. Foreign diplomats, including specialists from the U.S. intelligence community, think he might have been poisoned. His main security officer, al-Mustafa, thought Yasser Arafat and Israeli operatives poisoned him. At the time of his death, Abacha was one of the most powerful and authoritarian leaders in the world, having assumed near absolute control of the Nigerian government through a series of constitutional amendments and decrees. In 2002, the Nigerian government secured a court order to freeze some of the Abacha family's assets in Switzerland, and in subsequent years, the government signed several agreements with other countries to recover the stolen funds. In 2005, the Nigerian government signed an agreement with the government of Switzerland to return $458 million of the looted funds. This was followed by other agreements with the governments of the United Kingdom, the United States, and other countries, which resulted in the repatriation of millions of dollars of stolen funds. In recent years, the Nigerian government has continued to pursue the recovery of the Abacha loot. In 2020, the government received over $300 million of funds from the United States and the bailiwick of Jersey. This was the largest amount of the Abacha loot that had been recovered at once, and the Nigerian government pledged to use the funds to finance infrastructure projects and social welfare programs. It is believed that General Sani Abacha stole about $2 billion from the Central Bank of Nigeria. The life of Sani Abacha is a complex one, marked by both authoritarianism and corruption, and it is important to approach his legacy with nuance and a critical eye. While he may have implemented reforms aimed at improving the Nigerian economy and political system, how he came to power and the nature of his rule was deeply flawed and antithetical to the principles of democracy and human rights. One of the key lessons from Abacha's life is the dangers of allowing one person to accumulate too much power and undermine the institutions and processes that are meant to prevent such abuses. The suppression of opposition and the widespread corruption that took place under his regime are also serious causes for concern and demonstrate the importance of checks and balances and a free and independent press. Ultimately, the legacy of Sani Abacha serves as a warning about what can happen when those in power prioritize their interests over the well-being of the people they are meant to serve. We have come to the end of this video. Did you find this content interesting and educational? Let us know in the comments section below. Like and subscribe to the Notorious channel, and do not forget to turn on notifications so you get notified whenever we upload interesting videos like this. Thank you, and see you in our next video.